Right guys, so we're looking at the seated calf raise here, okay? So some of the kind of key features that most of you will probably be aware of here in the seated calf raise is that we've basically got the knee bent rather than having the knee straight. So that does change the relative contribution a little bit from some of the plantar flexor muscles. It also reduces the amount of moving parts between the point of force application and your kind of point of stability. So in this case, you're going to have restraint that you're pushing against up here at the pad, and you're also going to be applying your force then down here on the foot plate. So if you're doing a standing calf raise, the difference there being is that you've got lots and lots of different joints between the foot plate and between the point of application of the load at the shoulder if you're doing like a standard standing calf raise machine. So sometimes that can kind of limit your output because you're so focused on trying to stabilize everything else. So that's just one of the basic qualities of this exercise. But in general, one of the things that we kind of see, especially with a lot of new clients who are going to be working on an exercise like this, so if you are a trainer, it's something that you're trying to spot, is that people will basically get to the bottom of their range of motion at the ankle and they'll kind of keep going. So they'll basically get the rest of the movement coming from the joints within the foot and also basically them kind of inversion and eversion at the ankle. So you're no longer just doing pure plantar or dorsiflexion, the foot's also kind of moving within the foot and side to side at the ankle, okay? So they're the types of things that we're kind of looking out for here. It's not that big a deal if it is happening, but it might just mean that your client might get prematurely fatigued in the foot rather than the actual calf muscles. And in some cases, if some clients have a history of things like plantar fasciopathy, you know, a type of injury to the bottom of the foot, they might find that that's quite irritating. So again, it's just something to be mindful of as a trainer. So what I want to see here with Paddy is that when he's in the bottom position here, I want to basically see like what does that range of motion look like, okay? So when he's getting to the bottom position, I'm kind of looking at the foot and I'm saying, all right, what does that look like? You know, is the foot coming in a lot here, or is he staying in kind of one alignment position basically? So as I'm looking at Paddy's foot here and he comes down lower and lower and lower, I see more contribution there at that midfoot. So the foot is moving itself. So what I'm going to try and do then is say, okay, Paddy, you know, if you come down to the point where the weight touches my hand, that's enough, and then back up. And then we can try and standardize that. So as a trainer, I can standardize the bottom position, but I can also standardize the top position. Because what you're going to find is that as someone fatigues, they won't be going up quite as high. So I'll say, okay, Paddy, that's your top position. Now maintain the weight between there on every single rep. And as Paddy starts to fail to hit that top position, we might call that the end of the set. You know, if you're just looking for the client to work to concentric failure, or it might be the case that, you know, you're really trying to push someone to develop their calves. If you got tiny calves like Paddy, you might be trying to really push on the training stimulus, and you might say, okay, here's the mid-set range of motion adjustment, and let's just work that bottom of the half of the range now, okay? One other thing that I'd like you to be aware of as a trainer here is that it's very easy to cheat this exercise because you get a lot of inertia developing. So that's something we will have discussed in the biomechanics content. But if you look at the distance here, so you know that's very easy for him to just bounce up and down. And there's two reasons for that. So one, that Achilles tendon, again, refer back to the anatomy content. That's a really thick tendon. It's really, really efficient for running, for storing energy and releasing it, developing that elastic energy. So you can kind of bounce on that quite a bit during this exercise. But also, if you look at where Paddy's sitting, so he's sitting back here on this seat, and that's where the axis of rotation of this whole weight is. So this weight, the load itself, the plates, are very far away from this axis of rotation. So you can basically think of that like swinging around. So if you think of like someone that's on a swing, they're able to develop a lot of inertia as they're swinging. And that kind of goes back and forth. And a similar thing can develop here where as he pushes away, that weight basically wants to keep swinging out. So it's very easy to develop that inertia or that momentum, and basically that makes the exercise a lot easier, and it basically changes the stimulus that we're dealing with. So when you're working with clients here, what I would say is, you know, try to standardize the range of motion a little bit if you're trying to maximize the stimulus. Have a look at the foot position. Try to slow down the tempo a little bit, and just kind of, you know, be mindful that it's very easy to bounce in any type of calf exercises, and that mightn't necessarily be what you want from a hypertrophy perspective. So yeah, that's the seated calf raise, guys.